In many cases, we don't see our partner's bad behavior but are saddened by our developing dissatisfaction with our relationship as a whole. We're not getting as much attention from our partner as we'd thought. Many times, people don't get what we're trying to say. Most of the time, they're preoccupied with something else. Some of their responses are a little too abrupt or off the cuff. They don't seem to care too much about the specifics of our day. They prefer to talk to their buddies over us. There is a sense of disappointment in our hearts. When you think about love, what comes to mind? As long as nothing major has gone wrong, it doesn't really feel that way. The paradoxical origin of this grief is revealed. At the moment, we're dissatisfied due to the fact that we were quite fortunate at one point in time. Because we've been so fortunate, we're feeling down. We need to examine the origins of love to understand this apparent paradox. There is nothing in our adult lives that has prepared us for what it's like to be in a loving relationship and how it feels to be loved. Something more mysterious and powerful is at work here. An idealized picture of a happy couplehood pulls into the core image of comfort, profound safety in words, wordless communication, and of our needs being easily understood that is rooted in our early childhood memories. When things were going well as a youngster, a loving parent provided us with a sense of exhilaration that we will never forget. It was obvious to them that we were hungry or exhausted. Despite the fact that we couldn't always explain. Struggle was unnecessary. They immediately put us at ease and gave us a sense of security that was unparalleled. We were detained in a calm and orderly manner. As a result, we were both amused and pampered. Our experiences with being loved, even if we can't remember every detail of what we went through, are still very meaningful to us. To us, this is the ideal template for what love should look like. Inadvertently, even as adults, we remain attracted by the idea of being loved. Bringing our most positive childhood memories into our current relationships. As a result, they were disappointed. A comparison that is poisonous and unjust, in every way. As adults, we will never be able to replicate the affection we received from parents. The primary explanation is that we were a baby. And now we're adults, and that's why. One of the most important paradoxes in the world. As a starting point, our requirements were a lot simpler. As children, we were bathed, entertained, and put to bed. However, we didn't require someone to sift through the muddled recesses of our psyches. In order to explain why we prefer the first series of a television show to its sequel, we didn't require a caregiver at all. It is imperative that we see our aunt on Sunday. If it doesn't answer your question, I don't know what would. Or, use a bread knife to cut the bread properly. Parents are well versed in the fundamental physical and emotional needs of their children. When it comes to our partner's requirements, we're in the dark about what they're looking for because they're so subtle and difficult to fulfill. First of all, it wasn't reciprocal at all back then. There was no doubt in their mind that we were not going to respond to their request for attention. To our surprise, they didn't think twice about coming to us for help with their problems. They didn't need us to question them about their day, so we didn't. It was a joy to be able to focus on the task at hand. It was enough just to exist for them to care. They were enchanted by our most everyday activities, such as rolling over on our stomachs and clutching a cracker in our small hands. We were loved even if we didn't have someone to love us. A contrast between sorts of love that language usually skillfully blurs, insulating us from the difference between being the privileged customer of love, or its more exhausted and long-suffering supplier. In addition, our parents may have been nice enough to shield us from the strain that caring for us placed on them. Up until the moment they slipped into their own bed, they kept a cheery demeanor. It was at this point that the true toll of their labors became apparent, although we had fallen asleep by that point. As a gesture of respect, they didn't reveal exactly what it cost them to look out for us. That was incredibly kind, but it may have unintentionally set an expectation of what it may mean for someone to love us that was never true in the first place, and that is a permanent harm to us. We may wind up with partners who are techie with us, who are too exhausted to talk at the end of the day, who don't wonder at our every antic, who can't even be bothered to listen to what we're saying, and we may feel, with some anger, that this is not how our parents were. When we were children, our parents were just like this, lying awake in their beds, unaware that we were awake, and doing nothing. There is no specific shortcoming on the part of our adult partners to blame for our current pain. Not horrifically incompetent, but not unrelentingly self-centered. It's more like we're looking at our adult lives through the prism of a totally different sort of love than what we had as children. We're upset, but not because we've ended up with the wrong person. Instead, we're sad because we've had to mature. View moduli insert chart trending up the Dick Pro. Overview.